Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News. The news is live from our studios here at Kokomlemle. It's Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra. In Kumasi, we are live on Love 99.5 FM and affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions, including A1 Radio in Bogatanga, Fafa Radio in Georgia, in Kigli FM in Bole, Bolu FM in Bolu, and Jubilee Radio in Keta. You can also download the My Joy Online app from Play Store and App Store to listen live wherever you are around the world. In this edition, member of the committee that probed Ijura disturbances insist its findings that the death of Kaka cannot be linked to his social activism will help the police in its work and does not amount to interference.
That is the evidence we have. That does not stop the police from going forward.
We have details, and today we have fact check, and we felt
recorded an average growth rate of 7%, amongst the highest in the world.
We have the verdict on that. Also in this bulletin, traders in Accra Central Business District, Makola, fume over gaping potholes left in the middle of major roads in the area.
Now, in fact, more than 8 years.
I have driven in Accra for more than 25 years. All the roads are bad.
In sports,
Milivan Rahivat has named his squad for Zimbabwe. We take a look at the key players from the opposition Ghana should be wary of.
And in showbiz, from one legend to another, Kojo Entry eulogizes high life musician Nana Kwame Ampedu as he reveals he was his mentor.
Nana was an uncle. I mean, for me, if I speak about my mentors, he is the number one. As a child, I used to sing all his songs.
We'll hear from Kojo Entry and also the acting president of Musica, Bessa Simons. That and more here on the Midday News with me, Emefa Apau. Thanks for choosing us. We are your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. This afternoon, a member of the Justice Kumsin Committee that probed the disturbances at Ijura has defended its finding on the possible cause of death of social activist Mohamed Kaka. The committee in its report said, quote, "We accordingly find that the death of Kaka was not directly linked to his activism. It is more probably a family feud. The family is incensed by this and has described the report as nebulous and politically engineered." Nafiu Mohammed speaks for them.
As a family, we were shocked when we heard that. So we are of the view that the committee have erred. They have not done their work according to the framework set. Why should you be talking about findings regarding Kaka when Justice Kumsin himself said the terms of reference for their committee is to find the murder or the murderer of Kaka?
Well, security analyst Professor Emmanuel Kwesieni also says the finding on the possible motive for the alleged killing came as a surprise to him.
Certainly the point that Kaka's death resulted from a family feud, I find it quite difficult to accept. I don't know all the evidence that was presented before the committee, but that has come to me as quite a surprise. But apart from that, I think the generality of the conclusions and recommendations are very satisfactory. They are down to earth, they are sensible, they are implementable, and I'm hoping for the sake of this country that the recommendations are implemented.
But member of the committee, Professor Vladimir Inchidanso, says their findings is to help the police do its work.
The constitutionally mandated organ to deal with this is the CID. We didn't want to do their work, but we didn't have that mandate. So Kaka's family's anger should not be directed to the committee. We made it clear to them. Our work doesn't stop the CID from going further. Our work doesn't stop the family to seek redress from that point.
The committee said, quote,
I know the line. We were saying it is more plausible to suggest that
in fact,
we didn't accept the report of Abi Wakar.
In fact,
leading that. Yes.
Not that line. Now, there's a line before that I want to share with you, because it says, "We accordingly find that the death of Kaka was not directly linked to his social media activism. That is a finding of fact. And you said that should be the job of the police. And so that is what has caused a bit of the concern there. That's a direct, categorical pronouncement by the committee.
My brother, it doesn't have to. That's the evidence we have. Listen, we have any different evidence, that's what we have put. That's what we have put. So, and what controversy does that bring? Because that does not stop the police from going forward. Let us not change the channel of communication on this.
But Prof, shouldn't the police then have been left to do this work without the committee making such a categorical finding?
Wait a minute. Our work is part of what the police will rely on, and then will lead to either our finding being wrong or right. I mean, I don't see what's wrong with that.
I asked
to help the police.
That's Professor Vladimir Intridanso. He was a member of the Ejura Committee, speaking to my colleague Evan Spencer on the PM Express last night. Meanwhile, the family has also described the recommendation for the payment of compensation to families and victims as inadequate. They want government to provide a lifetime cover for the injured.
If you say you are giving people compensation, what do we mean by compensation? Those who have lost their life, money cannot bring them back. Money cannot bring them back to life. Secondly, those injured, my junior brother Awal Misbah amputated, Louis Wedge bullet through the stomach, of which he has complication within the intestines, which have been joined with a rubber. How do they sustain life? If you are talking of money, how much will you give them to sustain them till eternity? Compensation is not the way to go for those injured. Those injured have to be given a total insurance cover for their lifetime. Ghana can do that. Ghana can do that. More than that, since officers cannot be prosecuted for their offenses.
That's Nafiu Mohammed, his family spokesperson. Now, beginning next week, all aspiring applicants for road projects in the country will be required to have the necessary funding before they will be considered or selected. That's the declaration by Roads and Highways Minister Kwesi Amoako-Attah. The minister, who was addressing journalists after inspecting ongoing road projects in the Upper West region, lamented the huge numbers of people who bid for road projects without the needed resources.
From next week, we are taking steps to stop that. Don't come into that industry empty. They must be prepared. We are in a country that everybody wants to be a contractor. Ghana, everybody wants to be a contractor. And the Ghanaian has the right to be a contractor, but come also prepared to help yourself, to help government, and to help the people of this country.
Well, the minister also declared the year 2020, the 2020 year of roads, as a huge success, and said the infrastructural drive will be extended to this year as well.
Whether surface dressing, whether asphaltic overlay, whether bridges, whether interchanges are robustly and briskly going on across all the 16 regions of the nation, across all the 260 districts of our country. And it will continue. And roads are being fixed. And the manner and the speed with which Ghanaian roads are being worked on is unprecedented.
That's the Roads and Highways Minister, Kwesi Amoako-Attah. And now it's time for fact-checking, and today we'll put the spotlight on President Akufo-Addo's claims about improvement in the Ghanaian economy when he addressed the United Nations General Assembly. Head of our research desk, Raymond Nakwa, has more on these claims and the verdicts in this report.
Let's start with President Akufo-Addo's claim that in 2020, Ghana was one of the few countries with a positive growth rate.
In 2020, when the global economy in sub-Saharan Africa has contracted by 3.5% and 2.1% respectively, Ghana was one of the few countries that produced a positive growth rate.
This is true. According to the World Bank's national account data, Ghana's 2020 growth rate of 0.4% made it one of the 32 countries that avoided a negative growth rate. Let's now turn our attention to the president's claim on Ghana's average growth rate from 2017 to 2020.
Between 2017 to 2020, Ghana recorded an average growth rate of 7%, amongst the highest in the world.
This is false. Ghana Statistical Service's annual GDP growth rate report for 2013 to 2020 shows that the average growth rate between 2017 and 2020 was 5.3% and not 7%, as indicated by the president. The country's growth rate was 8.1 in 2017, 6.2 in 2018, 6.5 in 2019, and 0.4% in 2020. In fact, the World Bank's national accounts data on Ghana also affirms this average growth rate of 5.3% for the period under review.
That's the head of our research desk, Raymond Aqua, with fact-checking. We put the spotlight on President Akufo-Addo's claims about the Ghanaian economy when he addressed the United Nations General Assembly. Now, traders and road users in Accra's busiest market, Makola, are incensed over what they say is a neglect of roads in the area. It is a city centre of Ghana's capital with hundreds of business activities operating around structures that were famous symbols for commerce in Ghana after independence. But some of the people who work from there say it is a pale shadow of its former self. Joy News, Justice Bedu has been there. Here's his report.
The famous UTC building, once a signature monument of busy life in downtown Accra. Now abandoned and in ruins, it still towers over the city's central business district. The commercial life hasn't changed, though. A chunk of Accra's business activity still happens here. And yet, the road network is run down. There are gaping potholes when you are driving from the UTC area heading up to the Central Post Office. Drivers and traders are the ones feeling the pinch the most.
Madam 25 years old now a fact more than 8 years as we say.
I have driven in Accra for more than 25 years. This is where all the AMA buildings are, and yet all the roads are bad. If the government won't fix the roads for us, they should come and plant plantain trees on it for us. We don't have plantain in Accra. If they won't fix the roads, they should plant plantains
This road is like a dam. I think this is our share of government's One Village, One Dam. When it rains, this place floods, and when the sun comes out, it's extremely dusty. We are chased for tolls and levies, and you look at where we sell from.
Elizabeth Oforiwa has been selling by this heavy pothole for years. She says the bad roads slow down business and put their life at risk.
When the cars dodge the potholes, they hit people sometimes. It's dangerous to be here, but our trade is our source of livelihood, so we have no choice. Sometimes
Accra's hustle and bustle happens from dawn to dusk every day. But the rough roads here remain a headache for those whose lives depend on it. Justice Bedu, Joy News, Accra.
We'll head to Ofinso now in the Ashanti region, where residents say they are living in fear following the disappearance of children in the town in recent times. The town is gaining notoriety as an enclave of internet fraudsters, popularly known as Sakawa boys. There's already public outcry over the suspicious wealth of some youth in the town who opulently display flashy cars on the streets. Residents attribute the activities of the Sakawa boys to the missing children. Erastus Asaridonko has more.
Residents of Ofinso say this viral video showing some young men showing off in a flashy convoy of unregistered modern cars boils their blood. In the video, the occupants, described as Sakawa ritual internet fraudsters or scammers, are heard claiming one cannot be like them if they are unable to drink blood. Some residents narrated personal accounts depicting young men seen carrying coffins half naked in the town's cemetery in the dead of the night.
There were 6 young men carrying a white coffin. They were half naked, wearing only boxers. They passed through this plantain farm and disappeared into the cemetery.
One of the 2 children who went missing in the town in the past 6 months has been found murdered. Residents link the new craze for unexplained wealth to unexplained murders and disappearances in the town.
You will see very young people driving expensive cars. Ofinso used to be peaceful without killings and abductions. But today, Ofinso is full of bloody stories.
Children are disappearing. For instance, a 14-year-old girl and a 2-year-old boy have gone missing for 3 days at quarters and have since not been found. So this confirms the assertion that they use blood to get their riches. Even the elderly are disappearing. So if your child goes missing, you just have to give up on him or her and consider them dead. We are very worried. Ofinso is a very important town, and to have this happening here is deeply worrying.
Police will not immediately comment, but our sources say police patrols have been intensified. 2 meetings between Nananom, members of the Municipal Security Council, and opinion leaders have been held in the past days to find solution to the menace. Nana Yao Kobia Amenfi is senior linguist to the paramount chief of Ofinso.
We called all the security heads in the municipality to a meeting at the palace where we discussed this particular issue, and they promised to take action. Last week, we also summoned them to the second meeting where with assemblymen, the MCE, everybody. We invited all of them to a meeting of Nananom. But we are having some challenges. We have decided that we are organizing an emergency meeting on the 4th, then for the traditional council to take final decision.
The story of Ofinso is a mixture of fear incited by unexplained wealth attained overnight by young people and the disappearance of children, especially the recent murder of a 4-year-old girl. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaridonko, Ofinso, Ashanti Region.
Back to Accra, and for 2 consecutive years, the Auditor General has raised questions about the whereabouts of almost 200,000 of funds disbursed to the Mental Health Authority. In the 2019 and 2020 reports, the Mental Health Authority could not account for or substantiate the spending of more than 190,000 cedis. For Corruption Watch today, we put the spotlight on accountability issues at the Mental Health Authority. CEO of the Mental Health, Professor Akwesiose, has been fighting back the claims in this interview with Corruption Watch.
Well, I'm not sure the recommendation should be refunded. I mean, 2 things. One, WHO gave the money for us to give to the partners to implement this program. So what I think we should find out is, have they given the receipt to show that, well, to start with, have they given a receipt to us to show that we actually give the money out to them? That is one aspect. And 2, if they got the money, did they use it for the purpose it was intended to be used? I think that's the first, those are the first 2 questions, and not to say they should refund. If they use it for the purpose, they should refund. If they use it for the purpose it was intended, why refund? And they should give us evidence that it was used.
So at the time the Auditor General's team came to audit you, did you provide them proof that the partners had utilized the money for what it was intended?
We provided them with the evidence that the money was given to them, and they gave us a receipt to the fact that it was given to them. Ideally, we don't pretend over them. So actually, the auditor should have been there and he actually examines them. For instance, Ghana Health Service, the auditor also audits them. So it's for the auditor to be able to find out whether the money was used for the purpose it was intended. We don't pretend over them. Our work is to make sure that there is a receipt to the effect that the money was given. Notwithstanding, following that report, we have got them all to submit their receipts. But I'm saying that even the receipts, not receipt of payment. As for receipt of payment is submitted, but receipt of utilization, they subsequently produce that.
So you are saying that you are challenging that recommendation that the Auditor General made, that the recommendation shouldn't have been a refund of the monies.
Precisely, it shouldn't have been a refund, but it should have been a recommendation to get evidence that it was utilized.
Professor Akwesiose is the CEO of the Mental Health Authority. You're listening to the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. Our top stories: member of the committee that probed Ijura disturbances insists its findings that the death of Kaka cannot be linked to his social activism or help the police in its work and does not amount to interference. When we return, we have sport, and then in showbiz, from one legend to another, Kojo Entry eulogizes high life musician Nana Kwame Ampedu as he reviews he was his mentor.
Nana was an uncle. I mean, for me, if I speak about my mentors, he is the number one. As a child, I used to sing all his songs.
Vodafone Smart Service here! Yes, Smart Serve from Vodafone allows you to connect to super fast wireless internet anywhere and anytime at your own convenience. Whether home or office or on here, we move with seamless connectivity. Tell you there's even more. Vodafone Smart Serve connect up to 32 devices. What? So now you can connect to the internet on your own terms, increase your productivity, make the most of the things that matter, and do so much more. Visit fbb.vodafone.com.gh or the nearest Vodafone shop today and get a Smart Serve device now. A world of exciting possibilities awaits.
Vodafone. Together we can.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday News. Time for sports, and Gary L. Smith is here. What do we have, Gary?
Yes, thank you, MFR. And ahead of their double header against Ghana in the World Cup qualifiers, Zimbabwe head coach Norman Mapiza has called up a 24-man team to face the Black Stars in Accra in Cape Coast, next week. The Black Stars head coach Milovan Rahiva 3 days ago announced his team featuring Thomas Partey, the Ayew brothers, and returnee Alfred Duncan. However, what about the Southern Africans? What should the Black Stars look out for?
Zimbabwe's 24-man squad list includes key names like Bournemouth Jordan Zemura and Stade Rans Masha Munetsi. The Black Stars defense under returning head coach Milovan Rahivac will have to deal with the threat of Aston Villa's Marvelous Nakamba. Zimbabwe head coach Norman Mapiza has also called up Terence Vukamanja from South Africa's Orlando Pirates, as well as Tendai Darikwa from Wigan Athletic. The Warriors of Zimbabwe will play the Black Stars at the Cape Coast Sports Stadium on October 9th before hosting the return leg on October 12th.
Yeah, and also, as we said this morning, boxing and superstar Manny Pacquiao, who is planning to run for Philippines president, is in the 2022 election, says he's retiring from boxing to focus on the biggest fight of his political career. Pacquiao, who is a Philippine senator and has been dividing his time between politics and fighting, made the announcement in a 40-minute video posted on his official Facebook page earlier this morning. He also says that he's doing it for the love of his people. Remember, he's been at variance with the longtime President Rodrigo Duterte, who he used to be an ally of, and previously he had said that Duterte had been sent by God. Now he's going to try and contest him in the elections.
And I'm sure poverty will be his focus.
Of course.
Thank you very much, Gary, for sports. Now, join news sources have revealed that the police is carrying out further investigations with the aim of pressing more charges against self-styled physiotherapist accused of sexually abusing his patients. Jonathan Ohinin Kudim has been charged with rape at an Accra Circuit Court. He was also denied bail by the court. The suspect, who runs the Nature's Hand Therapeutic Center at Gbawe here in Accra, told desperate women with various health conditions that they needed to be sexually aroused before they could be treated. Manasseh Azuria-Wini of the Fourth Estate, who exposed the activities of Mr. Nkudim, said the suspect revealed he had hundreds of patients.
What we do know is that he was taken to court
and has been charged with rape. And the lawyers wanted a bail for him, but the court could not grant him the bail. So he's still in police custody, and the police are doing further investigation to possibly add more charges by the next court date. As of the time he was arrested, he said at the facility there were 2 huge piles of patients' folder. And he said about 500 of them were not very active, but the active patients were between 170 to 200 people who still go to the facilities.
That's Manasseh Azure Awuni. Now, government says its target of ending rice imports by the 2023-2024 crop season is on course. Some have cast doubt on government's ability to achieve this, particularly as rice consumption in Ghana outstrips domestic production and more than half of rice consumed is imported. But in this tour, to the Volta and Oti regions, Agric Minister Dr. Owusu Akotwefie, who visited a local rice factory there, reiterated they are set to achieve that ambitious target. My colleague Kweku Asante is with his team. Here's his report.
Ghana imports over $200 million worth of rice annually. This is a development some stakeholders have described as worrying. As part of his tour of the Volta region, to see firsthand the challenges plaguing the nation's agri sector and have a personal interaction with farmers, Agric Minister Dr. Owusu Akotwefie visited one of the largest local rice factories. A global agri-development company runs this rice factory that produces at least 700 bags of 25 kilograms rice per day. Joel Chachu is general manager of the company.
Yes, we can be rice sufficient in Ghana. We are one of the big players, and there are others that are coming up.
Agric Minister Dr. Owusu Akotwefie reiterated government's quest to cut totally the country's importation of rice by 2023.
We are encouraging more and more of such factories to be built around. We've promised the people of this country that by 2023, 2024, Ghana will be self-sufficient in rice. In preparation, the biggest bottleneck is not the farmer or the land or the seed. It's to do with the amount of milling capacity. If you look at the statistics, the last 3 years, we've been leaping and jumping in terms of output. So I'm very confident Ghanaian farmers will respond positively.
For Joy News, Kweku Asante reporting from Sagakopa in the Volta region.
And it's time to celebrate a legend. Mapitso Sibidi is here. Hey, you're really mourning.
The entertainment industry is mourning. I mean, we've lost an institution, a man who's composed over 800 songs. He's a legend and he's worth celebrating. From one legend to another, the music man, Kojo Entry, says he was his mentor and he had always dreamt of performing with the late Nana Ampedu. Listen.
Nana was an uncle. For me, if I speak about my mentors, he is the number one. As a child, I used to sing all his songs. At a certain time, as a child, when I was growing up, it was a dream to play in his band. And so for me, Nana was, was everything that I wanted to be, like selfless. I remember when I became the chairman of Gamro, he was very vocal, he was very active.
So that was Mr. Music Man Kojo Entry, but acting president of Musica, Besa Simon, also says, I mean, was a great man and we should celebrate him. Listen.
Nana Ampedu is one authentic, original musician whose style of writing is so unique that nobody can copy him. And this is why we say he's such a great loss to the nation. And he's a very proud Ghanaian high life musician, and he never hides it. Wherever he went, he mentioned it.
Okay, but let's go to Twitter. Nana Ampedu is still trending. At Aura says, Nana Ampedu really had some deep, wonderful songs that are not mainstream. A legend indeed. We also have this tweet from Yvonne Nelson, who says, one of the many voice notes the late Nana Ampedu sent to Sarkodie, and there's a tweet there. Boss, please, people are requesting for some songs, and this one is from Meister Nshirba, who says, such a masterpiece of a song, and people are just celebrating him on Twitter, on social media. But you can go to Joy Entertainment, our Facebook page, and share your thoughts. If you want to shout out on Drive Time, a song that you'd like to be, played for you, we'll definitely play it for you, because we are Joy Entertainment and we are large and in charge.
Thank you very much, Mapitso. And that's how we wrap up today's edition of the Midday News on Joy 99.7 FM. Of course, there's more on myjoyonline.com and the Licensed Sex Predator Part 2. Quack practitioner with 3 licenses. A Juan report committee has no basis for suggesting Kakao was killed due to family feud. That's according to the spokesperson, who will compel government to complete abandoned health facilities, if need be, Mental Kando. That and more on myjoyonline.com. How to grow your faith is Living Word with Pastor Mensel Tabel. I am Emefa Apau. Have a good afternoon. Come on, boy.